welcoming Gönül Daniels, from Conservative Party, standing as an MP for Edmonton, I understand. We welcome you to our Olay Web TV. While you're here and it's first time we're meeting, on behalf of our readers and ourselves, I was very much interested to ask you a little bit about yourself, who you are, and why did you end up in politics, a little bit about your background, and why Conservatives. So if you can put that in that order for us.
I was born and brought up in this country, so I'm second generation immigrant. I've had a full working career, so after my education I went straight into work. I worked at the Bank of England for 10 years, I've worked at the Houses of Parliament for 5 years, I've had my own businesses, I've also worked at other private areas. So as I say, I've had a full career and I've got a family as well, 4 children. So the reason I got into politics was because my daughter, I have 4 children, my daughter, when she was going to start secondary school, she didn't get a place at the school that we'd applied for. Now, we didn't ask for any special school, no selective school, it was the closest local secondary school that my daughter would be able to walk to. Unfortunately, she couldn't get into that school, and we were left with no school to begin with for about 3 months. And any mother of children who start school knows that that's a terrible position to be in, a very worrying time. That was one of the reasons I got into politics. When my daughter finally did get a place at that school, I became a governor at that school. And the reason I became a governor was because I saw that there was a policy that wasn't fair. So I wanted to put it right. I wanted to be involved in the policy making to set unfair things right. So I became a governor. I've been a governor at an outstanding school for 10 years now. I'm now chair of governors at that school. Another reason I've got into politics, so there's 2 main reasons, was that my brother, who was born with a hole in his heart when he was born, they patched him up, if you like, but throughout his whole life he had operations, major surgery at 13 and at 20, but then he went on to live a normal life. So, you know, the NHS, I fully support the NHS and what they do. They do a fantastic job, and I think, you know, great system. And they did a fantastic job for my brother. Sadly, my brother passed away 5 years ago, all related to the heart condition that he was born with. So his passing made me realise that life is very short. You shouldn't hesitate and worry about things that might or might not happen. You should just go ahead and do the things you want to do. So those were the 2 things that made me decide to get into it. I think community needs to be able to send their children to their local school. Children need to be able to socialise together, so your neighbours' children go to the same school as you go to, and that develops community. For example, now my next door neighbour, one side they go to one school, the other side go to another school, and we will go to another school. And that is not how you build communities. That's how you break communities, if I'm not looking after the local people. So, as I say, again, that was one of the key things that led me to start a campaign. So I got together with many parents, and I've led this campaign. And we called ourselves SWET. Not very nice. It could have been sweet, but we decided on SWET. And that stands for South West Enfield Action Team. And it was, as I say, a group of parents campaigning and lobbying the local authority to get increased primary school provision in an area where there isn't enough. If we have to send our children 2 miles away to school and drive them to school, there isn't enough provision in that area. So this is what we lobbied for and campaigned for. And sadly, the local authority, which is, I have to say, is a Labour local authority, and I think me being Conservative worked against me and the group, didn't actually do anything for us. They created 30 spaces, but again, well over, a mile away from me, too far for me to walk my 4-year-old children to. So, as I say, I'm Chair of Governors at Ashmore Academy, which is an outstanding academy, and we put in a bid for a free school, and a couple of weeks ago we were successful in our bid. So we will get the funding from the Department for Education to build a primary school in an area of much need. So, as I say, these are the reasons I got into politics, because I saw policies which weren't fair, and I decided to do something about it. So that's why I'm standing in Edmonton, because I lived in Edmonton for 17 years. I commuted from Edmonton, I worked in Edmonton, I raised my family in Edmonton. My two older children went to school in Edmonton, so I know the area very well. And I feel that the residents, constituents of Edmonton, I can relate to them, and hopefully they can relate to me, because I've experienced the issues that they've experienced and are experienced now, not only as a working mum, but also as a second-generation immigrant, and having those issues where you're trying to fit into a community and do the best for your family. I have integrated fully. That's why my Turkish isn't as good as my English, because I don't use it daily. But I've integrated into this society, which is why I've become Chair of Governors, which is why I've had a full career, why I've done well, which is why I'm a candidate now. If I hadn't have integrated, then I wouldn't be sitting here chatting with you.
My last question will be, obviously, you see a lot of things in your area as far as schools concerned, as far as health hospitals concerned, and many other social issues. Are there any particular ones that comes up that you, if you win this election, that you would like to represent and a voice in the parliament as far as your local vote concerned, and what are the kind of things that you would be very happy to speak out for in Edmonton, for example, or if you can put them in a priority order?
Yeah, well, the crime in Edmonton, and specifically knife crime and gangs. There is a gang in Edmonton, a notorious gang, if you like, and Edmonton, the police have various operations that they do, which Enfield isn't one of the boroughs that is part of that operation. Now, I think because we have a notorious gang in Edmonton, that is one of the priorities that we should be looking at. And I think because the local authority have not been able to lobby to become part of Operation Shield, for example. Now, Operation Shield is something which would give the police additional resources so that the police don't have to move into different areas, that they could focus on Edmonton or Enfield, because Edmonton falls into the London Borough of Enfield. So, you know, if we could become part of Operation Shield, for example, that would help crime in the area, and where it has been implemented in other boroughs, for example, crime has declined. So clearly that operation is working, but the local authority haven't been able to lobby to become part of that. And I would say again, we've got a Labour local authority which isn't working well with the government. For example, again, housing. In London, the GLA, there are 7 housing zones, and being part of a housing zone, you get additional resources, and Enfield is not one of those housing zones. So for me, there are clear things that the local authority, I'd say, doesn't work well because it's Labour with the government, because it's a Conservative coalition at the moment. So these are things that I would work on. If I was elected, then I would, you know, being a Conservative, would challenge the local authority about some of the things that are happening and why we're not getting the resources we need in Edmonton. Education is key to me. I think it's the key to everything, because if you get a good education, you have the tools that you need to not go into crime, to not go on to benefits. So education has to be key as well. It's one of my passions is education, to make sure that all children get the chance of a good education. So those are my key things, I think, for Edmonton if I was elected. What I would do also is, as I am of Turkish descent, I would have a surgery once a month, which would be, you know, Turkish speaking, and if needed for other ethnic groups as well. But you know, I would have these surgeries.
Closer contact
With the community, yes.
Immigrant residents in the area.
Yeah.
To have a better, probably, cohesion of community.
Yeah.
Okay. We wish you luck, and
Thank you very much.
it sounds it's very exciting. Your ideas, as far as I'm concerned, are you prioritize quite well, and good ideas.
Thank you.
We should-
It's an exciting time.